Let's do, listen, how many days, Nick Sadowski, is it now? Is it 7 days? Is today Tuesday? Is it 7 days
Tuesday.
until the election? Holy cow.
Wow. The election's a week from today.
It is.
By the way, KTAR, huge election coverage, Gaydos, all day Tuesday.
Yes.
And I'll be on after you on Tuesday night, right after the polls close.
We have a 2-hour war room that day.
Yes.
So we know that it's all coming down. We're going to find out who's going to win. People are going to be absolutely. I know you people out there. You're going to be out of your minds.
Out of your minds.
You're going to be out of your minds. We're going to get to the closing argument, the big speech that Kamala Harris is going to give, and this is a massive audience that she has. That she's delivering this speech in the next few minutes. It's her closing argument. We'll get to that in a second. But Barry, the big news over the weekend, and I saw a bunch of clips from the campaign and the MAGA campaign, the
Trump.
MSG, and it was just disgusting. I mean, I don't know how anyone sits there and watches this crap and says, yeah, that's not racist. Yeah, that's not homophobic. It was so bad. And here's the question that everybody wants to know. Well, did Trump know any of it? So how can you tie that to Donald Trump?
Well, he did know, because here's the deal. And look, I can't tell you Trump went through everything on his own, but his campaign absolutely knew. Every speaker who spoke at that event, this is coming from the Trump campaign, every speaker who spoke at Madison Square Garden, and I think there were 30 of them or 50 of them before Trump, they all submitted their speech ahead of time, including that comedian. Every single one of them submitted their speech. It was on the teleprompter. They read it off the teleprompter. They weren't allowed to ad lib. So Trump knew, or his top people knew what was going to be said. In fact, that comedian, the one who made the really disgusting racist statements about Puerto Rico and other stuff, and Gaydos, I'm all about humor. I'm all about comedians. I don't want to stifle that at all. I think that should happen. I don't blame that guy. That's what that guy is. He's an insult comic. He's incredibly successful. And
talked about black people carving not a pumpkin, but a watermelon.
Yeah, that's what he does. The question is, you have to question the judgment of Trump and his people. Why do you invite that guy? I mean, seriously, there's not another comedian. What about you can't invite the Jeff Foxworthy or the Larry the Cable Guy or those types of comedians who are going to come in. They're funny guys. They're professionals, but they're not going to do this. They're not going to insult all these different races. And that's the part I don't understand. I don't blame the guy. He's a comedian. This is his act. He did his act.
He's done this before.
Exactly.
He's been on the Tom Brady roast I saw.
He's been
it was
at
brutal.
He sold out Madison Square Garden by himself twice this year.
Right.
So he's a successful comedian. This is not about him.
What's the difference? It's that a political event is the difference.
Yes, it's a guy running for president who's, you just talked about Kamala Harris doing her closing remarks. She's doing it right now in D.C. That was supposed to be Trump's closing remarks. And it was at Madison Square Garden. And it wasn't just the comedian. It was one speaker after another being hateful and racist and saying just vile things. And that's the part with Trump that you just have to look up and say, that's what you want? You want this the next 4 years? Just the nastiness and the anger and the separating us, not bringing us together. It's one of the many things, but I don't understand that, Gaydos.
Yeah, I think you're judged by the company you keep. And I think the company that Trump keeps is very full of hatred.
I think he
really is.
I think he has a lot of hate. I mean, if you just listen to what he said at this thing, it's a lot of attacks. It's so funny. A lot of Republicans over the weekend were getting on Kamala Harris and people who were saying that Trump was a fascist. And then I think it was ABC News put together a clip shot of Trump saying over and over and over again that Kamala Harris is a fascist and a communist and a Marxist. This is what he does all the time. And by the way, Kamala Harris, she answered a question and said he was a fascist. It's Republicans saying Trump is a fascist. It's his own people from his administration saying he is the textbook definition of a fascist, and they've seen him in action.
What about them calling Kamala Harris the Antichrist?
Yeah.
Right? But you know as well as I do, the other side calls Trump the Antichrist as well.
Yeah, well,
all the time.
The Antichrist? I don't know if I've seen that.
Oh, yeah.
They're calling
He's
each
the
other.
devil.
They're calling each other names. Here's the part that I didn't like about the Trump rally. It's not calling just Kamala Harris names. It's calling Hispanics names. It's saying that Puerto Rico is a giant floating pile of garbage in the ocean.
I agree with you 100%. The whole thing was nasty, racist,
about black
and hateful.
About black people, about Hispanic people. I mean, I don't know. Look, Gaydos, I'm Jewish. If some guy who's running for president has somebody come in at his rally, supposed to be his closing argument, and starts just saying the most nasty stuff about Jewish people, I'm like, I'm not voting for this guy. This is ridiculous. I don't want to stand next to this guy.
So the bottom line is this. there are 500,000 Puerto Ricans who live and vote in Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania, that's absolutely right.
Could this do something?
I don't know.
Could that tip?
There's a lot of Hispanic folks who are Trump is doing better with African American young men and with Hispanic young men. Does this change any of that? This is a close race. So if you take some people who were thinking about voting for Trump and now they're like, I can't do it. It doesn't have to be many. Gaydos, look in Arizona. Biden won Arizona by 10,000, just under 11,000 votes. It doesn't take many change votes. That's 500 people changing their vote from Trump to Kamala, and that was the difference in the last election in 2020.
And that's why it was such a stupid thing to have those type of speakers at a Trump event for a closing argument.
Yeah, a week before Election Day. And this is the issue. Do I blame the comedian? No. I don't blame any of the speakers. Trump knew what they were going to say. He vetted their speeches before him. They were all approved. And here's how we know. The comedian was, and another speaker, we're going to call, and I apologize for saying this, they were going to call Kamala Harris the really nasty.
Really bad word, right. We know.
Okay. Really bad word. And
awful.
Really bad word against a woman. Yeah. And the Trump people crossed that out, said, no, you're not saying that here. Good for them.
So that was the line.
But my point is, they knew what he was going to say, and they let him say it.
Yep.
That's a judgment issue. How is that okay with any of us?
It's not okay.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's not okay.
All right.
Thanks for watching Outspoken with Bruce and Gaydos. Tap to watch more from KTAR News and click the button in the middle to subscribe.